Broke as a joke at 38 to a successful business owner at 45. I'm going to teach you guys how I did it, what I did, all the steps that I had to do to get to where I'm at today in this video. Y'all stay tuned. Welcome or welcome back to Starr Knows Credit. My name is Starr Carter, and on this channel I talk personal financial education. If this sounds like something that you would like to be a part of, please consider being a subscriber. Make sure you guys cutting on the notification bells. That way you don't miss out on any content that I release. And also, guys, give this video a thumbs up. That way somebody else might see it, that it could touch their heart and bless them today. I'm not going to hold you up. You know how I do. Let's get into today's video. So guys, I was scrolling on my Instagram account. My Instagram handle for my personal account is at Write It Girl. And I was scrolling on my Instagram account, just looking back on some of the things, some of the trials and the tribulations that I've been through. And that was a part of what motivated me to do this video, because I went through so much, guys, when I was in debt. And I didn't realize how much it affected my life until I went back on my Instagram account all the way back to 2013 and so on and so forth. And it was one of those things where I just had this epiphany, like where they would say back in the old church, you know, if you look back over your life and you see how good God has been to you. I'm one of those people that I can really and truly say that because of Instagram and I document everything that I went through, I can literally say that I can look back over my life and see where God has brought me to where I am, and I can see the future of where he's going to continue to bless me and push me even further than I can ever imagine, you know. And so that's what inspired me to do this video today, because I need to show somebody that may not feel that they are in a good spot, and they may not feel like they will ever be in a good spot, especially financially. And I want you to know today, guys, if you feel that way, I want you to know that there is a way, but it's going to take work. It's not going to be easy. It's going to take a lot of work. So let's go ahead and let's get into what I did and the changes that I had to make to get me to where I am today. And here's a disclaimer, guys. I'm not a religious person, but I do believe in the higher power, and I do believe in scripture. So I'm going to reference a couple of Bible verses today in this video. I know this is a finance channel, but this is a part of my journey. Okay, so in order for me to give you the full focus of how I got there to where I am now, I have to incorporate what I did and the things that I did to be completely transparent. So hopefully that doesn't turn you off. If it do, maybe this is not the video for you, and maybe the next one will be, but just for a disclaimer, just letting you know. As I was getting prepared to do this video, when it was placed on my heart, the first thing that popped into my mind was this right here. Where God said, if you take the first step, I will take two. And that was the first thing that I had to do to get to the life that I wanted to live, and to position myself for the promises and the purpose that God has for my life. I had to take the first step. And the first step for me was acknowledging what I had done to my finances and to my life ever since I was a teenager. I did a whole video about my debt addiction, so I won't recap that whole story in this video. If you want to see it, I will link it in the card somewhere above. But that started my process. I had to face what was going on with me. I had to be real about my situation. I had to be real about living a lie, you know, living paycheck to paycheck despite working in the banking system, living paycheck to paycheck despite knowing a little about money. Not a lot, but a little enough to know that I should not have been running around using credit knowing that I couldn't pay it immediately back off, you know, and foregoing everything that I wanted to do with my son, you know, being able to take him places and do stuff, because I was so into the instant gratification of now. I wasn't thinking about later, you know, I wasn't thinking about sacrificing for today in order to have a better tomorrow. I was not thinking about that. I was only consumed with being a slave to the lender. That's all I was consumed with. It was never in my mind or in my forefront that I could generate enough money to live and have the things that I wanted without taking on debt. And because I took on so much debt, it was a detriment to my health eventually. By the time of 2015, I was so sick. I had lymph nodes. I had all kind of things going on and thought I had cancer. I had biopsies sent to different specialists. All this is documented on my Instagram account, that I did not know what was going on. And it did not take them, this is 2015, they did not even diagnose me properly until the end of 2019. But by that time, they was having such a hard time because something else happened to me, guys. Something else happened that propelled me to them taking longer to find out what was the diagnosis for what was going on with me. And that thing was, I had to have a mindset shift. I had to step out of myself to be able to see my situation with a clear focus and a clear lens, right? And once I was able to do that, and I felt like when God took the ability from me to walk back in 2016, the early part of 2016, I could not walk. Like literally it hurt for me to walk. They thought I had lupus. They thought I had rheumatoid arthritis. They thought I had MS. It was a whole big mess, right? But I know now that what it was, I was so stressed in my body. I had so much anxiety because of the debt, because of the financial strain that I was in. I had headaches. I had muscle body aches. Despite working out, I was a workoutaholic. Like I said, guys, I'm gonna link my old Instagram account. Well, I still have it, but I don't post regularly on it like I was back then. But I'm gonna link it in the description so you guys can go back and see what I'm talking about. I got the receipts, guys. So it was one of those things where I had to take inventory and stock on myself and be like, golly, Starr, you are 38. You're back with the love of your life, but you guys are broke. Because I met my husband when I was 18, you know, and we've had our, you know, on and off times. He married somebody else. I married somebody else. It's a whole nother story. But God put our union back together, but it was a lot of work. But I had to work on me first. I had to work on me first in order to be the wife and the mother that I needed to be, right? So I had to take the first step. I had to take the first step in order for God to help me. I had to acknowledge that I needed help, that I needed to get out of the situation so that I can be a living testimony of what you can do if you believe in yourself and in the higher power. So that's was my journey at that time, was just stepping back out of myself and just having to take that first step of just acknowledging that, Starr, I don't want to live this way anymore. I don't want to live paycheck to paycheck no more. I don't want to be in debt anymore. I don't want to live this way. So I told the story too about 2017, about my husband's car breaking down and him not having the money to get the brakes fixed. So we had to call the landlord and not pay the rent. And I told that story in my debt addiction journey. And that was the day that I felt like God heard me, because I made the declaration then that we would never be that broke ever again, that we would never live paycheck to paycheck, that we would never have to forego something so important as paying our rent because we couldn't afford to get our brakes fixed. And we got to get the brakes fixed because you got to get to work. You see what I'm saying? So it was that declaration that I made that clicked on the light bulb for me to say, okay, Starr, it's time for you to do something different. You got to do something different. So that started the journey for me. That started the journey for me. And I thank God every day. And I talked about this also in the Debt Addiction video, that I was led. I'm a big reader, and my Instagram account is called Write It Girl, because I've also wrote 2 self-published paranormal fantasy books back in 2015. So I love to write, I love to read. So I was scrolling my Kindle and I ran across the book by Dave Ramsey, The Complete Guide to Money. And that was the book that changed my financial life. I would not sit here on this YouTube platform and tell you that it was anything else. But that book and the Most High God leading me to that book, and I bought that book in July of 2017. Right? And because I sat there and I read that Kindle book on my Kindle from cover to cover, it was what changed my money mindset. Because my whole life, I saw my grandmother, I saw my mama, if they wanted things, they went to the rental companies and got bedroom sets and got stereos and furniture and stuff. So nobody was saving any money. We was a debt family. So that's all I knew. If you wanted something, that's what credit was for. You go get it. You don't save any money. That's what credit is for. So the first time I got a bedroom set, when I moved out on my own, I got it from a rental company. My grandma took me to a finance company to get my first loan that was supposed to be building my credit, instead of me going to a credit union or a bank. You know, I just made a video on the 5 mistakes, so I will link that above, about the 5 mistakes that holds people credit down. And that's one thing, you know, dealing with finance company. But that's what she knew. So therefore, that's what she taught me. That's what my mom knew. That's what my aunts knew. That's what my uncles knew. That's what they knew. So we go by what we know. I didn't have any other information, despite going to college and despite working in the banking. Eventually, you know, that's where I went to. But when I was 18 and when I was young, first into credit, that's what I saw. That's what I saw. It wasn't about saving. It wasn't about investing. It wasn't about none of those things. It was about, what can I get off credit? What can I get on borrowed time? Right? And I did that my whole life. Everything that I bought, from a cell phone to my Kindle to computers to whatever, everything was always on credit. I never paid cash for anything at this point. All the way up to 38, I've never paid cash for anything. Not my cars, not even my clothes, because I had a Old Navy card, I had a JCPenney card, I had a Cato's card, I had a Bilt card at one point. I did everything on credit, and it showed, because for 20 years I lived paycheck to paycheck. I did. I lived paycheck to paycheck, and I did not have any savings. I did not have any fallback money, despite working after graduating from college with a business degree and a minor in accounting. By 2007, I was still in debt. I was in debt all the way up through working in the banking system, you know. But I wasn't the only one. A majority of the women that I worked with were in debt. As they say, as the excuses, debt-based society. That's the excuse we use for the behavior that we do, right? We blame it on, oh, this is a debt-based society, this is how we run. All that nonsense, right? But I had to make the declaration when I went through that with my husband, like, we're not doing this anymore. We couldn't use credit then to pay for my husband's brakes, because all my credit cards was maxed out. And my husband's credit wasn't good. He couldn't get a loan. He couldn't get any credit. And everything I had was maxed out. I already had a personal loan. I already had a loan, a second loan that I had took out on my Jeep at the credit union that I was working at. So there was no way I could get, I had no more wiggle room. My debt to income was way up. My income was here. My debt was up here, right? So I was dead in the water. We had to call the landlord for him to hold the check that I wrote so that it would not bounce in my account. So I had to make that declaration. That was my second step, knowing that God was going to make the next step. So that brings me to the next thing that I did. once I started reading The Complete Guide to Money by Dave Ramsey, and the first thing that he said was the baby step one was getting an emergency fund. And at that point in time, I had never heard of an emergency fund. I'm 38 years old and had never heard of an emergency fund. That's wild, isn't it? But that wasn't the lingo in my house growing up. That wasn't any type of lingo that I was hearing. So me and my husband, we made it like a challenge, right? He got 500, I got 500. So at first, I'm gonna keep it 100 with you guys. I was only able to save like $5 at first, because once I sat down and started actually looking at my finances and seeing the damage that I did, I wrote down every credit card I had, with every balance I had, with every interest rate that I had, and I actually looked at the numbers, because before then, I never looked at the numbers. I just knew when the minimum payments had to be made, and I made the minimum payments. That way it wouldn't go to collections and I wouldn't get any late payments. That was my only focus. Paying them off was not in my mind. It really wasn't. It was just being able to make the payments, right? Just barely keeping my head above water. That's what was going on. And so when he said about doing an emergency fund, I was like, okay, let's do this emergency fund. So I said 500 my way, 500 this way. It was the longest road, guys, to saving $1,000. If you've never saved $1,000 before, that is the longest road, right? It seemed like everything in their grandmother was coming up when we was trying to save. The heat went out in the house, and because the weather was bad, it was taking the people longer to get to repair the our heating unit. So we wind up having to get some space heaters, you know, just for the meantime. So it seemed like every time we turned around, there was something eating at that little savings. And it seems like that's what happened. But we continued to forge on. Even through the frustration, we continued to forge on, right? What I did to start tackling my debt, I didn't look at the big $25,000, which I think it was like 27. It was really up there. I didn't look at that big number. I just broke that number down by little pieces, right? So I started with the smallest card. I did the snowball of debt effect that Dave Ramsey talked about, which is baby step 2. So I did the snowball debt effect, and I started with the smallest balance, not the highest interest rate, but the smallest balance, and that gave me a reward. When I paid off that Old Navy card, that was such a reward. But how did I do it? I didn't do it in a way that made it harder for me. The way I did it was I paid $25 every week on that card. The credit union that I worked at the time paid us every week. So I paid $25 a week on that card until I paid those $200 off. That's how I did it. And then the next card was a JCPenney card. It had a $500 limit. I took those same $25 that I was putting on the Old Navy card every week, plus another $25. So now I was putting $50 every week on the JCPenney card. And then I had $1,000. So then I took the $50, added another $25, and then I was doing $75 on the third card that had $1,000. So before you know it, I was knocking it down, honey. By 2020, I had knocked those credit card balances down. And it was a blessing. It was a complete blessing, because I had to have emergency surgery. So during this time, I'm paying off those credit cards, and I'm also building our emergency fund. So by the time we had got to 2020, my husband had paid for a car cash with $6,000, paid for, right, from our savings. We had saved so much money just between 2017 and 2020. So when I had to have emergency surgery in May during the pandemic, I wasn't even worried about being out of work. My short-term disability did not kick in because they said it was a pre-existing condition that I already had. So if it wasn't for me already having money saved, hadn't got out of that debt, you know, I still had my personal loan. I still had a little bit of the personal loan left, but I was almost paying that off as well. I would not have been able to recoup and recover properly worrying about getting back to the job. So that was another blessing, you know, just running up on that book in 2017, asking God to please take the steps, and I would take the steps too. Please, you know, just help me get to a better financial footing. But I had to make the declaration. I had to start changing my mindset and start thinking about things more in terms of cash than credit, and learning what the difference was between an asset and a liability, right? Assets is what makes us money. Liabilities is what takes money away from us. So my whole life, my grandmother, my mother, everybody, we lived off of liabilities, borrowing money on time, using credit for everything that we wanted. So now we're in 2020. Not only though did I start, on the financial journey, I also had to start on my surroundings journey. Who were the people that was pouring into me and who I was pouring into made a difference in me changing my mindset. Because if you're around a lot of people that think the way you think, or have a negative money mindset or a broke mindset, to think that everything they do has to be on credit, or robbing Peter to pay Paul, getting over on things, we behind on this, so therefore we got to do this and all that. If you got those type of people that have a poverty mindset, then you got to get away from those people. And that's what I did. I started limiting my time around a lot of people. So eventually, my friends became just my husband and these finance books. That's who became my friends, right? Me reading about finances, being on YouTube, being on blogs and stuff like that, and just reading about money, getting real serious about money. This is not about materialistic things, guys. This is about a mindset shift, because you are promised abundance. You are promised prosperity. That's your birthright, okay? So don't get this twisted. I was one of the ones that I was like, okay, if I want a different result, I have to do something different. The people and the things that I was doing had not at that point got me to where I wanted to be. So in order for me to get to where I want to be, I have to do something different. That's the hard part. That's the growing pains. That's being uncomfortable, because you have to face that, okay, I don't know it all. I need something new, okay? So I had to change my surroundings. And not only my friends or my acquaintances and people like that, I had to change the music I listened to. Because I was listening to, a lot of gangster rap. I grew up in the era of Tupac and Biggie and all that. Now I still listen to a lot of old school hip hop and stuff like that. But my husband liked to listen to trap music. We had to stop listening to that. We too old to be listening to that foolishness, So it was about a complete mind, body, and spirit and soul renewal to really change that mindset and what it was that I was trying to manifest in my life. Listening to that low vibrational music that's talking about killing and dope and women and degrading women and all that stuff was not conducive to what I was trying to do and what I wanted to manifest into my life. So I had to stop that. I had to stop it. So I started listening to more positive music, high frequency music, some gospel, stuff like that, that was more uplifting than tearing me down or making me think a certain way. Because I grew up in Baltimore. I seen a lot of violence. I seen a lot of that. My brother went through a lot of stuff with violence and everything. My cousin is still doing time right now, 15 years. So that's been my whole existence. So I had to get myself out of that mindset. So we're in 2020 and I'm recovering from major surgery. So I'm like 6 weeks in, and I'm writing articles and I'm writing poems on my Medium account, on medium.com. So I'm like, okay, I can generate some income from writing these poems and stuff like that. So I'm thinking of ways that even when I was in debt, when up to my eyeballs, other than me writing the paranormal book, I never thought about other ways to make income like that and to be able to have money outside of my 9 to 5. And I remember talking to my husband and I said, I don't know what's going to happen, when I go back to work at the bank, because by this time I was working at an actual bank and not a credit union. And I said, I don't know what's going to happen, but I feel like God is going to lead me to a business. I don't know what it is, but I just feel like God is going to lead me to a business. And it was in July of 2020 that I got the idea to just make room sprays from the essential oils that I already had on hand, because I would use essential oils in my locks. That's all I put in my locks is essential oils. I don't use all that jazz they got at the beauty supply stores. I just use natural stuff in my locks. And so I had went online and read some blogs about how can you make natural room and linen sprays using essential oils. And so that's what I started doing. And as the events and stuff started opening back up, you know, like I said, we're doing the pandemic. This is July of 2020. When the events and stuff started opening, I started signing up to do events. And I came up with a name. My name of my business is Scent Herbalist. So it started with room and linen sprays. And from there, I went to start making candles. By the end, you know, by midway 2020, so this is around about September, I started making candles, right? And then by 2021, I had a whole candle, room and linen spray, and wax melt, the complete line, right? And by this time, I've done thousands of dollars in sales online, and also doing different craft show events. And so fast forward, I wound up talking to this guy that I used to always see at our local farmers market, and he was telling me about him getting a space because he needed somewhere that he could sell his produce and some of the meats from off his farm. And so he found a little building, right? And he told me, he's like, Starr, I love your products. I love the things that you do. You know, everything you do is, you know, good for the environment and stuff like that. And he says, I want to carry some of your candles inside of my shop. And I was like, cool. So I go down to his shop and bring him, you know, the candles that he had ordered from me. So he had got some lemongrass and stuff like that. And so I brought them to him. And so we talking and everything. So I go back home and I tell my husband, I said, I was just at Will's shop. I said, it is the perfect size building for what I want to do with my candle stuff. And because at this time, this is 2021, me and my husband was actually riding around trying to find little spaces where I can have it, because the business had took off so good at this point that just here in my local area and surrounding counties, that it had took over my living room, my dining room. I had an extra back bedroom. My son had went off to the governor's school, so I even had stuff in his room. So it just had like took over the house because business was doing so great. So my husband was like, how long you think you're going to be able to work at the bank full time, get off work, make candles, do deliveries, do, you know, shipping all this stuff off to your customers? How long do you think you're going to be able to continue to do that? And I said, well, you know, when I started the business and everything in 2020, I said that I would give it 2 full years to see how it does, right? So fast forward, talked to Will, and, you know, I gave him some more candles and everything. So this is like the end of 2021. And this is where we're at now. We're at the end of 2021. So by this time, back in April of 2021, I had paid that personal loan off. That was the last thing I had. The Jeep was already paid off. I paid my Jeep off back in 2018 when I had refinanced it. So at this point, all my money, when I'm getting paid other than household expenses, and then I was putting money into the business, because at this point I didn't have any business credit. So I'm putting my personal money into the growth of my business at this point, and I'm saving. So the only money that I'm spending is my part of the household stuff, you know, groceries. I paid the light bill. My husband paid for the housing. I paid the light bill. I paid the cable, internet, blah, blah, blah. So everything else, you know, was money for me to get my business going, help my business to expand and to elevate. So I was using my own money. At that point, I really wasn't, you know, abreast to business credit that way. But by this time, you know, with me paying all those credit cards off and actually learning how to use my credit cards for rewards and cash back and that type of thing, no longer carrying balances, my credit score skyrocketed. I'm over 750 now. So now we're looking at, you know, wanting to buy a house and all these different things. And so Will comes to me in January. No, it was the last part of January, first part of February, and I'm at the farmer's market with my candles and stuff, and he's like, Starr, are you looking at getting a building? And so I'm like, yeah, me and my husband, we was looking at something, something that's really budget friendly, not something that's gonna break the bank or whatever. I said, because we're still saving, for some other stuff. And he was like, well, I've already found another spot, but I'm paying rent in both spots. I'm leasing both spots. Do you think about taking over that little shop that I was at? And oh my God, guys, I wound up calling my husband. I'm like, Will want to sublease me his shop, the one I told you that was perfect for my candles and stuff. And he was like, for real? I was like, yeah. And so we came down here and we looked at it and blah, blah, blah. Now this is February of 2022, right? So we came down here, the shop that I'm in right now. When I'm filming my videos, I'm inside my shop. So those bottles that y'all see behind me, those are fragrance bottles. Those are, because on this side of me is where I do all my candle making. I do all my bath stuff, my body butters and my soaps and stuff. I do that at home still. But all my candle stuff, I do that here. And this is the bathroom behind me. And over here, right here in front of me is my cash register. And out here is the showroom. And so just like that, guys, I went from not having any money to having a business. So we wound up getting in here, painting and doing all that stuff. And I'm gonna tell you guys how good God is. I wound up never apply for any business credit. So this is November of 2021. I applied for American Express Prime card because by this time I'm already buying stuff on Amazon business side, not Amazon personal, but Amazon business side, right? So I'm already buying stuff on the Amazon business side, and they're always asking me to apply for this Amazon Business Prime card, telling me I can get $100 gift card or whatever if I apply today. So I knew I needed some more. I'm right in the thick of the holiday season, which anybody in a bath and body type of industry, that's one of our biggest seasons, especially for the candles and stuff. So I wanted to get some more stuff so I can create some more inventory, because I had a lot of events. Like I was doing events like every weekend, and I was grossing anywhere from $1,000 or more every weekend. Now I'm making more money than I am at my job at this point. I'm still at the bank, but I'm making more money on the weekends than I am at my job, right? Every week. And so anyway, fast forward, I get approved for the American Express Prime card, and they gave me a $3,000 limit. Use the card, I got the card, I used the card to get stuff off Amazon, or it's got American Express logo, so I could use it anywhere except American Express. So I was buying my candle supplies and stuff, but I was paying the card right back off because, I learned my lesson. So I'm paying the card right back off as I'm using it. Overnight, I did not have the money, I did not have the liquid cash without going into my savings again to get the paint materials. But what they say, but God, I go to on my American Express app to see where my I had made a payment, see if it posted to see if my credit limit was back up to 3,000, and it was. And I looked, and it said 9,000, and I said 9,000. I had to do a double take because I was like 9,000. So they had 3x my limit because I paid it off, paid it on time, constantly was paying. As I was buying stuff, I was paying it back off. So they 3x my limit. I didn't have the card but like 4 months. They 3x my limit, so now I had 9,000. So then I had enough money to get the paints, get my racks, get all the stuff that I needed, and I was able to pay it back off. As I opened up the shop in April. The first day I opened up the shop, we did over $3,000 in one day in sales, and it was just, prosperity the whole time, And I left the bank in September of 2022. That was my last day. I opened up the shop here April the 8th. So my anniversary, my 2-year anniversary of me being in this shop will be April the 8th of this year, 2024. And I continued to work my job until September at the bank. I actually gave them a 3-month notice because I was so freaking nervous about leaving my job. Like, back when I was broke, it wasn't nothing for me to quit a job and go to another job. It was so wild. I didn't care about, me not having no money. I didn't have any money. But at that point, there was no reason for me not to want to leave that job. I had my savings, my business is doing well, all that stuff is going on. But I was literally terrified because, like I said, I promised myself that I would never be broke again. And so stepping out on faith, I had just got another raise at my job and stuff like that. So just stepping out on faith, and I love what I was doing at the bank at that time, because I was working in electronic banking. I was doing like back office operations and stuff like that. So I actually love what I did. I love my team. So it was really, really hard for me to leave my job. But the Most High had another purpose for me, because I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I just never knew how to get there. And if it wasn't for me, guys, and this is the honest to God truth, if it wasn't for me getting out of debt, I would have never got to this point. I would have never got to this point. And a lot of times, you know, they'll be like, well, money isn't everything and all this stuff. Money buys you your time back from a job that you hated, because, oh my Lord, when I went to work at the hospital for a little time, I was so stressed. It was awful. You know, just being able to do what you want to do is invariable. You can't even put a value on that. You know what I'm saying? And I want to read an excerpt from The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. And he says, and this is on page 84, he says, money greatest intrinsic value, and this can't be overstated, is its ability to give you control over your time, to obtain bit by bit a level of independence and autonomy that comes from unspent assets that give you greater control over what you can do when you want to do it. A small amount of wealth means the ability to take a few days off when you're sick without breaking the bank. Gaining the ability is huge if you don't have it. A bit more means waiting for a good job to come around after you get laid off, rather than have to take the first one you find. That can be life-changing. 6 months emergency expenses mean not being terrified of your boss, because you know you won't be ruined if you have to take some time off to find a new job. More still means the ability to take a job with lower pay but flexible hours, maybe one with a shorter commute, or being able to deal with a medical emergency without the added burden of worrying about how you will pay for it. And that right there, when I read that, I read this book last year. When I read this, and I got a whole lot of dog ears where I found so many gems in this book. This book is awesome. When I read that, I knew then, Starr, you bought your time back. Getting out of debt allowed you to buy your time back and to buy your freedom to do what you wanted to do. Because I love business, I love finance, I love money, I love talking about money, I love talking about credit, I started the Starr Knows Credit channel in June of 2022. So y'all go back to some of my old videos. So I'm talking about mindset, I'm talking about manifestation, how I got my shop, you know, a little bit more elaborate. But it was because of that. Because I got out of the debt, because I changed my money mindset, because I got some new information, because I changed my surroundings to be around people that was thinking like me, or especially knew more than I knew. And if you can't find that, go on the internet. Get you a mentor. Get you somebody that can help you. If you need me to be your mentor, y'all know you can get into the Credit Ready program. The information is in the description and is always pinned in the comment. $10 a month, counseling time. Y'all know the deal. But here's the thing. One thing is for sure. You got to do something different, guys. You got to do something different in order for you to be propelled to the next level. If it wasn't for me being open and receptive to new information, I would still be in the same predicament I was in 2017 at 38. I would have still been in that same predicament, because at that point I had no information. You got to be willing to see things from a different perspective than what you've been looking at. Change is hard. I already know. You don't have to tell me. I already know this. So that's why I'm telling you. That's how I did it. That's how I did it. It was no magic formula. It took almost a little over 3 years to pay for everything that I owed, but I did it. And now I'm able to talk to you guys. I'm able to give free consultations. I'm able to have a full course that only costs $10 a month, because I no longer worry about money. I'm a money magnet. My God, my Most High take care of me. Take care of me. And therefore, I'm able to pour into y'all. I was not able to pour into anybody before because when your cup is full, you have nothing to give. So I did not have anything to give. I did not have anything to give. But I want to leave you guys, before I go, I want to leave you with one more verse. So hold on just 1 second. So this is a journaling book of the Bible. This is Proverbs. I love Proverbs. I got Psalms over here. So this is one that you can actually journal in. And so listening to some of my spiritual teachers earlier, and they brought this up, and I said, this is perfect for this video. So I want to read this to you. It's Proverbs 21, and this is verse 5, and this is from the English Standard Version of the Bible. Okay, so it says 21 verse 5, it says, the plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty. So you guys have to plan. You have to plan and be diligent in order to lead yourself to abundance. When you don't and you make haste, you will lead yourself into poverty. So you have to change. You have to change. I turn my pain into purpose. I turn being into debt into this channel. That way I can teach you guys what I done, right? And if you never join me for a consultation, if you never join into the Credit Ready program, you got these videos right here on YouTube for free. You know, looking at the ads helped me out a whole lot. But that's the thing, guys. You have to turn your pain into a purpose, and you can break the generational curses in your family by starting and changing what you know based on new information. You got to be receptive to new information, and you got to want to implement that new information, because they love to say knowledge is power, but knowledge is not power if it's not implemented. You got to implement that new information. Okay, so just to let you know where I'm at, guys. Now financially, I have no personal credit card debt. I have no personal credit card debt. I have just minimal business credit card debt. But let me show you guys where I went. I went from having all those cards maxed out to having almost $100,000 in personal available credit. And on the business side, same thing. I got 3 Business Chase Ink cards. I have American Express Gold cards and all these type of things now that I don't have to use. I use them for the rewards. I'm going to a conference at the end of this year, a finance conference at the end of this year in October in Atlanta for a whole week. I would never been able to do that. Staying at the Hyatt Regency, it's going to cost me like $1,700 for the room, and all for the conference and everything is going to be a little over $2,000. I would have never been able to do that. I would have never been able to chase my purpose if it wasn't for me turning my pain into purpose. And if it wasn't for me being able to take wise instruction. The Bible also says that if you don't have a vision, you will perish. That's paraphrasing, but you know what I'm talking about. That's also in Proverbs. You have to want to change. You have to want that thing that you want, the vision that God has given you. You got to want that thing so bad that come hell or high water, nothing will stop you. You got to buy back your time. You got to buy back your freedom, because when you are in debt, you are a slave to the lender. I know my channel, it was about talking about getting credit cards and all that type of stuff. But I told you guys, I'm on a new journey. I'm on a new journey to helping my people more. Because if you guys don't understand where this stuff could lead you to, you're going to be like how I was at 38 if you're not already there. From the time I was 18 to the time I was 38, I was in debt up to my eyeballs. But I had to take wise counsel. I had to be led by the divine, and I had to get new information. So I hope this video blesses your heart. I hope that it touches you in a way that you share it with your friends, with your families, with your colleagues, with whoever you think that will benefit from this information. I know it was a long story, guys. Y'all know I'm long-winded. I'm like a preacher. I'm long-winded. I'm one of them old school Baptist preachers when it comes to that, because I have to give you the full concept and the full, grasp of what it is. I want y'all to feel me. You know what I'm saying? I want y'all to feel me. So I love you guys. I really do. And check out these next 2 videos right here about the 15 signs of debt addiction, and also about my journey. If you have not ever seen my journey in debt addiction, the full story from the time when I was a child all the way up to where I'm at, you know, minus what I've already told you guys, check out that video as well. I love you guys for real. I'm gonna see you in the next video.